Welcome back, everyone. This is Dave from Quorum Productions with my co-host Stacie here to talk about the new Quantum Leap Revival, Season 2, Episode 5, One Night in Koreatown. The episode's description reads as follows. Ben lands in the body of an 18-year-old working for his father's shoe store in Los Angeles, Koreatown at the start of the explosive 1992 riots. Facing an emotional connection in the riots to his past, Magic joins Ben on the leap. The episode is directed by Tamika Miller, and the episode was written by Benjamin Robb and Derek A. Hughes. They were responsible last season for Salvation or Bust and Paging Dr. Song. They are a writing duo. They seem to write everything together.
And that's interesting that we got a nod to Paging Dr. Song in
this
episode. So that makes sense.
Yep. Before going any further, I'll tell you a couple of things. One, this is not a spoiler-free podcast. If you haven't watched the episode, I highly recommend you go and check it out, and then come back and give us a listen. Secondly, if you're listening on one of the platforms that this podcast is now available on, please subscribe. You can also head over to my YouTube channel, Quorum Productions, where additional content can be discovered both Quantum Leap related and otherwise. If you're already on my YouTube channel, please like, share, and comment, as well as subscribing to our channel. Alright, shoutouts. Amanda cracked open her Quantum Leap Mirror's Edge book because I mentioned it twice in 2 weeks. Now, actually, this is the third time I mentioned it in the last 3 weeks. Kelly M. Didn't think that Addison not being the hologram would last for an entire episode. We were both wrong. In fact, it's continuing into not next week, but the week after.
The next episode.
With Jen appearing to be the hologram. Now, whether it continues after that, we'll see. But for now, me and Kelly are both wrong. She said some other things. I forgot to actually look into it because I didn't quite have time. Chris Coleman also commented on the Facebook page. Now I know where he came from when he appeared in our comment section. I didn't exactly remember what he said either, because he said something about Ben and Addison not really having empathy for each other for the situation that they were in, and that's why they came to blows in that last week's episode.
Okay.
All right, so Stacie, your thoughts on this week's episode?
Okay, so big tone shift from last week's romantic comedy.
Oh, absolutely.
We're in I had described this to you earlier. It feels like we're in a very action-packed setting in a very drama-heavy script.
Right.
Right? So there's a lot of emotional dialogue and storytelling happening here. I think it's a great kind of focused story where we get some background on some characters. I don't necessarily feel like it's one of the strongest leaps in the series.
I think it's a good episode. I had some issues with it. I think with a tweak here and there, this episode actually could have been pretty great. As it stands, it's pretty good. It's actually kind of similar to Sullivan's Crossing episode last week, whereas I felt with a tweak here and there, and maybe a more focused story, and we could have had a great episode.
Yeah.
This isn't as far away from great as that episode was. This one just needed a minor thing here and there, and it could have been a great story. As it stands, I don't feel like we focus totally on the right things all the time. But
I feel like this was similar to something we were saying last season where, there's so much going on that it feels like it goes really quick. Like, I felt like it wasn't a full hour of television.
Right.
Like, it felt like a quick episode.
And I actually think it might have been longer than the usual episode. At least that's what when we were watching on Peacock said it was like 55 minutes. Granted, that's involving some commercials.
Right.
But I don't think it's like, the 10 minutes worth of commercials. So the closest analog this story has is to an original series episode. Wow.
Let's see if you can say it right.
Okay,
this is one you have trouble with.
Black on White on Fire.
Good job.
That was a Deborah Pratt written episode, and she took everybody to task in that episode. She didn't paint anybody as monsters. She really kind of just she presented people as kind of flawed, trapped in the system. I think for the most part so in interviews she mentioned the fact that basically that episode pissed everybody off.
Right.
Like, there was a whole lot of controversy involving that episode. Nobody was, well, I mean, you know, the episode has its supporters, obviously, but it made a lot of people
There was
mad.
opposition on all sides,
right, basically,
of the issues, yeah.
And because it kind of takes a nuanced approach to the subject matter, and there was a lot of people who were not happy with it. I don't think this episode is going to have quite the same reaction, but obviously we're already seeing some people who are against this episode.
Yeah.
You know, the usual suspects.
The people who are against a lot of things in this series that I can't really comprehend their point of view.
Right.
Literally saying things like, you know, this story is all these words we're not going to say. And the original series never was.
Right.
When, like you just said,
That's
this
completely
episode
false.
pretty much mirrors a storyline we already saw.
Mm-hmm.
And if anything, I would say it was less so.
Right.
Facing the issues than that episode did.
Yeah, I mean, for the first half hour of the episode, I'm like, okay, but why aren't we, like, saying anything like, you know, why aren't we getting in a little deeper here?
Right. Like, we
They
were
do,
we were in
eventually,
the
but-
setting of these
Right.
riots, right? But we really just focused on this family and their little bubble within it.
Right.
We saw little tidbits of the things going on in the world around them, but it was mostly very focused. In fact, one of the things that the Quantum Leap Writers Room had tweeted about during the episode is that this episode was shot entirely on the backlot.
Oh, really?
So it was almost like a bottle episode. Like, we didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, very, very much so. Now,
Other than, of course, you know, we had the project scenes, but, like, the leap scenes were all filmed on the backlot. Like, we left the store to go 10 feet down the street.
Right.
And that was it.
unfortunately, this story is still very timely. Though you might not think so, this very much still applies to our real world life, as Magic ends up pointing out himself. You know, the 1967 riots that Magic brings up, 1992, and, you know, the closest thing that I can recall happening recently was the whole George Floyd thing. And that's not the last time I'm going to talk about that. I think I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get into this. But, yeah, all right, I think we should just dive in unless anything else you want to say. Okay, so, Ben leaps in. He's in a Korean shoe shop. A nurse, this is Eloise. No, not
Louisa.
Louisa.
Louisa Rojas is the customer. She's a nurse, like you said, and she's played by Annalisa Velez.
Okay, that name sounds familiar. He verifies that the shoes are real and says he hadn't seen anything like them in a while. She complains about the price hike. His dad comes in and ends up answering why the shoes are so much more expensive than they were last week.
Right, and it's because a chain store opened up down the street, and they have to raise their prices to cover their overhead. Things haven't been going great in the store. They haven't had a lot of customers, and we learned that this person, you said he's the dad. His name is Jin Park, and he's played by C.S. Lee. I recognize him from Dexter. He was one of the main characters on that show.
Oh, okay.
And he's been in a ton of other things, of course. So yeah, he's the owner of the shop, and his sons work for him. And the nurse, Louisa, she doesn't seem too bothered by the fact that the shoes have gone up in price. She said, I saw them last week for $40. Now they're $65. She wants to know why, but she supports them. She's like, okay, I'm going to go to the ATM and get more money. She's not like, oh, I'll go down the street to that chain store. You know, she's here. Shop local, shop small. Everybody take that message. All good things.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely something you should try to do. She says she's working a double shift, and she needs the shoes for her shift to do this.
Yeah, and is that really the best time to wear a new pair of shoes?
No, you don't want to break into shoes like that because your feet will be really, really freaking sore.
Yeah.
So I would recommend not trying on new shoes before going and working a double shift.
Yeah. So she's gonna come back between shifts after she has a chance to go to the ATM, asks what time the store closes, and Jin tells us they close at 7 p.m. every night and not a minute sooner.
And that will come back into play. He talks. So Ben ends up talking to himself about the shoes, the Jordan shoes specifically, that he always wanted, but his mom couldn't afford.
Yeah, and really, Ben, you're going to talk about this out loud in front of the guy that's your host's dad?
He's not even doing this when, Magic is around or something like that. He's just doing this.
He's alone. He's like, my mom never would... Listen, he knows your mom. He's your dad.
Right.
So maybe you shouldn't say things that don't make sense right now.
Right. So a young black kid, Dwayne, which the father is aware of, enters, and Jin ends up calling him trouble. His father puts him on trying to prevent Dwayne from stealing. Ben asks if he can help him, and he says Sonny is holding some shoes for him. That would be the Jordan 7s or something along those lines.
Yes, Jordan 7s.
He initially doesn't know who his brother is, or actually who Sonny is.
Right.
And he's like, your brother? What are you talking about, basically? And he basically has to guess who exactly he's talking about.
He goes to the other young man that's nearby and just kind of assumes he's Sonny, and he's right.
Mm-hmm.
And Sonny asks Ben to follow him to the back room, but don't let Dad know about it.
Right. Sonny mentions that his dad doesn't trust anyone who isn't Korean. I would assume that would mean the police too, but he seems to not have that particular issue. He gets handed the box, which to Ben feels light. He opens it up and sees a box of money. All right, so Stacie, you see a box of money. What is your assumption here?
That something shady is going on,
Mm-hmm.
right? Yeah, this is not helping us get a picture of what's going on.
Right.
We are instantly led to believe that Jin is right, Dwayne's up to no good,
Mm-hmm.
the son is in something with him, something nefarious is going on.
I would say that this kind of plays into our own prejudices. I mean, you see a box of money, what else are you going to think at this point? That something shady is going down. But I think this is kind of playing with us a little bit.
Yeah.
It's definitely intentional that they're giving us a bad impression.
Right, exactly.
Sonny says it's not what it looks like.
Yeah, which is also a weird thing. When you say that,
right?
Usually it means it is what it looks like. So he should have explained. If you're going to let your brother see this,
right,
you should tell him what it's about.
Actually, it's kind of funny. Why doesn't he just say
right?
What it
Exactly.
is?
Either don't let him know about it or explain it.
Right.
And Ben gets called Little Bro here, which
Little Bro
reminded me so much of Sam.
Yeah,
Sam always getting called Little Brother by Tom, and the few moments that we hear him being called that within leaps, it always just triggers that back up.
Present day, Magic is opening a jewelry box at his house. I assume it's either his or Beth's.
They're living together. I'm pretty sure we got that.
Okay. Beth comes down the stairs, and it's the anniversary of their first date. They're living together, and they're celebrating the anniversary of their first date.
Yes.
Which I guess is a little bit more significant than just a regular old date, as we will find out later, I believe. They have a reservation. Magic wants it to be later in case he gets caught up in Quantum Leap stuff, because he's replacing Addison as Ben's hologram.
Right.
And Beth is like, so by the way, this is the solving of the big mystery.
Confirmation that the person he's dating and the person he was talking to on the phone is Beth, which was my best guess.
Yeah, I mean, we've been saying that since like episode 2 when the mystery first came up.
Right.
It was probably
in
Beth.
episode 2, this is the jeweler he was buying, so he bought it a couple weeks ahead of time.
Now, much to my surprise, the discourse surrounding this is very much like Miguel and Rebecca in This Is Us.
Yes.
The people are like, oh, they were friends, they shouldn't be dating. Like Al and Magic. Well, first of all, I don't know how good of friends Magic and Al actually were.
I mean, we get the impression that Magic was close with the whole family, right? He was a family friend. He was there to support the family after he, I'm assuming, found them while he's researching Sam.
Now, in This Is Us, they kind of set us up to be against Miguel initially, for the fandom to have a bad reaction.
Right.
By making it seem like perhaps Miguel stole Rebecca from Jack.
Right.
When that's actually not how it was at all. In this specific case, they don't give us that impression. But I have the same opinion that I had back then. I didn't have a problem with, Rebecca and Miguel, based on what we learn later. Okay. Learn later. And I don't have a problem with this. It's been like at least 3 years since Al died, probably longer.
It's been 3 years since Ben's been missing, so 4 years since we started this. He was already gone then.
Right.
Sometime between 2018 and 2022, he died. So yeah, it's been a while, and
Yeah.
I talked about this before, and I think it was on the air.
I think we had this conversation
That
on there.
it makes sense that
Absolutely.
that all of this would bring Magic and Beth closer together. Like
Mhm.
they have so much in common here to support each other through these situations.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyway, Beth ends up suggesting that, couldn't Ian or Jen be the hologram?
Right.
And then suggests Tom.
Yeah, or the new guy.
Yeah, I mean, if they didn't talk about that situation at all, because if she knew anything about that situation, she would not be recommending Tom.
Right, she just knows there's a new guy.
Right.
And Magic tells us Tom is the DoD liaison, but the team is ultimately his responsibility, so he's stepping it up this leap.
Speaking of which, Tom does not appear in this episode.
Yeah, which I thought was weird.
That means he's appeared in 2 out of 5 episodes,
Yes.
and he's regular. Now, granted, Hannah has only appeared in 1 out of 5 episodes, but, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, I feel like he's working at the project. We should at least see him more frequently, even if he doesn't necessarily have a role in the episode.
Right.
He should be around more.
Maybe in the background or something. Magic feels responsible for the team. Beth says that he knows that Bennett was like a son to him, or is like a son to him, but she is worried about Magic. Meanwhile, in the past, Dwayne and Jin are getting into it. Ben and Sunny end up intervening, and, Jin and Dwayne do not end up parting as friends here.
Yeah, basically Jin's trying to throw Dwayne out, saying he's trying to steal stuff. Where's your receipt? And Sunny gives him the receipt, like, look, here's the receipt. He paid for it. When really, I mean, he didn't pay for anything. He's handing him a box of money. They're not helping this whole situation.
Right, no.
They're really perpetuating the dad's views of this friend.
Yeah.
By being so shady about these interactions.
In the past, actually I already did that. Okay, so Jen and Magic end up talking. She's worried about him getting rattled. Magic says he's a former Navy SEAL. He doesn't rattle. And we will later find out that this is very much
she's
not
worried
true.
about, well, do you know how to use the hand link? It's,
right.
It's more challenging than a smartphone.
I mean, he's been in the imaging chamber before.
He has. Yeah, but I think only briefly, not like a whole week.
Yeah. So Ian suggests that Addison talk to Ben again, maybe get him to change his mind, but Addison wants to respect his wishes. And with that, she just basically
she excuses herself.
So, I'm sorry, she doesn't have any other job to do at the project?
Right, you can't, stay and help on this end of things.
So she doesn't have a hologram, so she's just going to fuck off for the rest of the episode?
She says, yeah, if you need me, call me, bye.
Like, I'm sorry, if you don't have any other job, if you're basically fired from being a hologram and you have nothing else you can do, why are you even here? So yeah, I found that a little weird. But anyway, so Ziggy ends up finding Ben. Magic steps into the imaging chamber and appears to Ben as he's putting away shoes. Ben is surprised and amused to see Magic. His dad, meanwhile, yells at him for continuing to talk to himself. And basically says, get your head out of the clouds, as he will do throughout the rest of the episode. Ben continues to talk to Thin Air, and he finds out he's Daniel Park, and this is the family store, and he wants his hologram to fill him in on more of what's going on here.
Right.
But they end up seeing a news report. The police officers involved in the Rodney King beating are acquitted on the charges, and that gives them the date. Basically, they know now that it's April 29th, 1992.
Ben instantly knew the date.
Right.
He recognized, if this is the day they're being acquitted, he knows it's April 29th, 1992. I don't think I like him having all of his photographic memories back.
No?
It's too easy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like it almost negates the need for the hologram a lot of the times. I think I liked it better when, Sam sometimes would remember stuff and sometimes he wouldn't. And he'd remember some of it, but not all of it. And Al would have to kind of fill in the blanks.
Sure. But at the same time, he's still not going to know the intimate details of this family's life.
Right. But I just feel like he knows too much. It's too easy that he has this photographic memory and suddenly is like he's a walking history book.
Right. They basically have ditched the whole Swiss cheese memory thing.
They ditched it completely. Like the fact that you can just recall what date it is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, sure, I remember this happening when I was a kid.
I
couldn't have told you the date.
I'm pretty sure that we're basically the same age as Ben.
Exactly.
And no, I would not be able to tell you the exact date that this happened. even if this meant something, I mean, it did mean something to me, but even if this were deeply personal to me,
right,
I still wouldn't be able to tell you the exact date.
Exactly.
And so that's where our credits start. And after the credits, Ben remembers seeing the verdict, how unfair it was to the black community, and remembers that the Korean businessmen were on the rooftops protecting their businesses with shotguns and various weapons.
Yeah, and another interesting tidbit from the Quantum Leap Writers Room on Twitter, or X, I suppose I should call it, is that the 3 extras that we see throughout this episode, standing on the rooftops, taking that role of the Korean businessmen, they're played by legendary stunt actors Simon Rhee, Philip Rhee, and Jeff Imada.
Cool. I thought you were going to tell me that they were actually there on that day, protecting their businesses or something along those lines.
I mean, that would have been cooler.
Yes.
Yeah.
But okay. Ben's not there to stop, the riots, because of course he's not. That's just too big of a job.
Too big, yeah.
Jin was killed during the store while it was getting ransacked, and Magic leaves to get more details. Sunny expresses he can't believe the cops got off, and Jin says they were just doing their job, taking the law and order argument, which is, I think, kind of interesting.
Yeah,
from him.
Jin is supporting the acquittal of the police. He said Rodney King was a criminal, and basically he deserved it.
Right. Ben says that the people won't see it that way. This is just another example of the system not treating them fairly, and it's going to piss a lot of people off. Ben argues they should close the store, but Jin says no. And Ben quotes, "Yeah, I know, it's 7 o'clock and not a minute earlier, but I really think we should do this." And he continues to argue his case for why they should shut the store down. Jin says no until Louisa comes back.
Right, because remember, they're holding shoes for her. He really wants to make this sale. It shows you just how desperate they are for customers that, well, maybe I'll think about closing, but not until we take care of this transaction that we have open.
Meanwhile, he yells at them to clean up the stockroom. Sunny makes a reference to the peaceful protesters. Okay, so this is where I'm going to get into this a little bit.
Okay.
All right, so Black Lives Matter. George Floyd sparked, what happened there, sparked a lot of protests, a lot of it peaceful, but there was also some violence involved. Now, there are 4 groups of people that I would say are in this type of situation. 1 are people who just want to protest peacefully. 2, there are people that are angry enough to, and their anger is justified, to want to do violence and are genuinely reacting from that. Then there's the opportunists, the people who don't care about the situation at all. They're just taking advantage of the situation.
Right, because stuff's happening. They're like, ooh, this is a great time to loot.
Right. And then there's a 4th group, and that would be undercover police officers basically sparking the violence, which there has been proven to be in the case of the Black Lives Matter movement, because they know that violence tends to turn people off. Violence is something that is going to turn some people against your cause, and they want to keep us divided. So there was some of that during the George Floyd protests. I'm going to venture to say that the same case was probably happening in 1992 with the Rodney King verdict. Everything that I just said was probably happening as well. Genuinely peaceful protesters, the genuinely angry, and the opportunists, along with undercover police officers sparking, pushing violence. I made a video, We Can't Breathe, about the George Floyd protests in the wake of that. And as I was doing that, there's some footage that was included from, the police reaction to these protests and how they reacted. And it seems very similar to footage that you would see in what happened at Selma way back when. And what you would see from what I saw in a movie, the trial of the Chicago 7. Did you happen to see that?
I don't think I did, no.
Okay, that was like a 60s protest type thing back in the day. I think they were protesting the war. And in each instance, you see the exact same reaction to the police, from the police. The same type of stuff. And if you watch my video on that, and I'll include it in the comments or the episode's description, you'll see some of the stuff that the police get up to, and it's quite terrifying and horrifying. The police reaction is the same, no matter the era.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that Magic gets into at one point during
Right.
the course of this episode. And yeah, so I think I've said what I'm going to say about that, and I'm going to move on.
Okay.
So where was I?
So they're taking out the trash, and they're talking about protests are starting. Ben asks Sonny if, as the older son, maybe you can convince Dad it's time for us to leave.
But Sonny thinks that it's a hopeless cause. And Sonny reveals that he has a side project. And is this where he mentions the fact that he has a shoe line coming?
He didn't say specifically what it was,
Right.
but he said, I have a side hustle because the business isn't doing well.
Right.
He's found another way to earn money. And
he mentions that Ben is leaving for the Marines.
Right. He kind of sidesteps the whole discussion to ask Ben, when are you going to break the news to Dad that you joined the Marines?
Now, again, why wouldn't Sonny just tell Ben what's going on?
Yeah.
I mean, they both have secrets. They both know each other's secrets, so why doesn't he just come out and tell Ben what he's doing?
Right.
As opposed to continuing to look a little bit sus.
Right. You have a side hustle.
Right.
Yeah, still we're thinking, oh, it's probably
drugs or something. Right.
illegal and bad.
So Jin is listening to radio reports, and things start to escalate.
And they're suggesting you should shelter in place.
Right. Louisa comes in to drop money on the counter and tries to leave. And things are really starting to escalate. Ben wants to, leave, everybody to just leave now. But Jin's refusing.
Louisa even offers to give them a ride.
Which isn't going to work out.
But Jin's like, nope, not going. So Ben offers at least to walk her to her car because, it's getting pretty rough out on the streets. She said coming in, she saw people breaking store windows and things are getting really bad right where they're at, right on this street. She said she can't stay with them. She has 3 kids she has to feed before her next shift, but Ben's going to walk her to her car.
Meanwhile, at the project, they are trying to find the cause of Jin's death. Ian says that there is so much information and misinformation out there during the riots, and the emotional, everything is crazy. They talk about the Ben and Addison situation, and Magic wants them to focus.
Yeah. And so Jen and Ian are poring over all these records looking for how did Jin die? We know he died, but we don't know specifically how or exactly when. Shouldn't Ziggy have been able to pour through these documents quicker than them?
Yeah, I would believe so, but,
I feel like Ziggy doesn't have a lot of purpose anymore. I feel like we've taken so much away from Ziggy.
Yeah, and we've said that multiple times. And I think there's actually an expression that I noticed that from Matt Dale and his book.
Yeah.
What's that expression? Give Ziggy his voice back?
Give Ziggy his voice back. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I guessed that. He had just put up the acronym, and I was like, yeah, I know what that means.
So there's more than a few people that feel exactly this way. All right, so Magic appears. Oh, never mind. Sorry.
Magic doesn't appear?
Not yet.
Okay.
So yeah, the cause of death, I mean, they're still at the project scenes. The cause of death is blunt force trauma. They kept the store going, Ben...
In the original history,
the sons, Daniel and Sonny, kept the store going, giving up their own dreams, pretty much out of guilt for their father's death.
Right, and to keep his store going, because this was, his whole passion in his life. And yeah, they felt guilty because they weren't with him when he died. We never quite got exactly what happened in the original history, that they weren't with him and he died.
Right. Ben and Louisa find her car pretty much burnt to a crisp. And we see some of the rooftop Koreans that Ben was referencing earlier.
Now, her car, I have to say, it looked really rough. The windows were broken.
It was on fire.
It's on fire. But also, the entire car is smashed. 6 guys attacked it at once, beating it up. Because, cars in the 90s were solid.
Not like today, that's
right, exactly. It would take a lot of effort to beat that car up as bad as it is. And this happened in 5 minutes while she was in the store picking up sneakers.
Yeah, I don't understand why they put the effort into damaging this one particular car.
Damaging it to the extent that it's damaged. I can get, broke a window, set it on fire, or beat it up. But it looks like it's been through the ringer. And she's only been gone 5 minutes. They destroyed her car, and they've moved on. There's nobody around. So I feel like maybe that was a little...
Over the top,
over the top, yeah.
Okay, so Louisa wants to know why they were so angry at her.
Right. She's like, I'm a nurse. I help people. She's struggling to make ends meet and take care of her kids. And this is her only mode of transportation. She's angry.
Right. Ben points out that they are angry at the system. Louisa says that she's angry at the system too. She's a single mother, and she's trying to make ends meet, which she now can't because her car is destroyed.
Right.
And she can't afford to get another
and
one.
Also,
she's not going to be able to afford the insurance.
How am I going to get to my kids now?
Right. So Ben ends up recommending that she call somebody to look after them.
Yeah, he's like, do you have a relative or a neighbor you could call to look after them? Who's supposed to watch them while you're on your shift?
Right. Well, I mean, assuming that someone else was already doing that,
right? So...
Right. Magic appears to say he needs to get back to the store now. He isn't there just to save Jin. I'm not really clear on what he's suggesting.
Yeah, we're getting the impression that Louisa was supposed to die too.
Right, but it's not specifically
we were never
said.
told that.
Right.
Yeah, again, I feel like we don't get a lot of exactly what Ben's changing.
Right. He drags Louisa back, and Ben tells everyone to leave, but there is absolutely nowhere to go. They're back at the store. There's nowhere to go. Everything is clamped down. The cops are coming.
The National Guard's coming in the morning.
I don't know what I mean by this note, but whatever.
Yeah, we heard that the National Guard's not coming till morning, so they're going to have to ride out the night.
I think this is supposed to read, the cops are not coming. Yeah, they're battening down the hatches. Jin wants to go up on the roof with a gun. Ben talks him out of it. When Sunny instead ends up going up there.
Yeah, he volunteers to do it, but they say, specifically Louisa says, one gun's not going to protect the store. So they fortify the doors, take down all the merchandise from the windows at Magic's advice.
Right. Yep.
He seems to know what to do in this situation. And the TV announces that Reginald Denny was pulled from his vehicle and beaten. That's another real life event that was pulled into this, giving us a little kiss with history. Now,
that's interesting in itself because your complaint on this series a lot of the time is that they don't use real history.
Exactly.
Here they very much
We are rooted in real history in this episode, which I do give it a lot of credit for. It feels a lot more like the original series.
Right.
Like you said, Black on White on Fire, we got a lot of TV footage used as footage in the scene.
Right.
So yeah, this was a little bit better rooted in reality, I think, and in real history. We didn't just make up a lot of stuff for this episode like they tend to do with some of these.
Right. Magic gets summoned back to headquarters, and it turns out to be Beth, who claims he forgot his lunch. They go to the office, and she ends up confronting him with an alcohol bottle. Magic says it's not his. Okay, first of all... Beth needs to come to his job with this.
Well, she's really worried.
Okay.
And I give her that.
Okay. But she needs to come to his job when he knows what he's doing. He knows that Ben needs him.
Right.
She's getting him out of something that could potentially be important to talk to him about this now.
Right.
She could have waited until he got home.
And also, the team could have told her, he's busy, leave his lunch.
Right. Okay. So that's a problem. But, all right. So we're getting... whacked with the idea that Magic is an alcoholic that we've gotten no indication of through 5 episodes of the season. Okay, so if we were going to do this, and I'm fine with doing it, if we were going to do this, there should have been a hint of it.
Yes, there should have been some sprinkles of hints.
Maybe like Sullivan's Crossing, where he's looking at his 1-year chip or something. Something along those lines. Like some indication of his problems.
Like we had hints that he was dating someone.
Right, exactly.
A couple of times those were sprinkled until we learned for sure that it's Beth. And, I don't know, maybe there were hints that we missed.
Perhaps. Maybe if I watched the first 5 episodes, I would see something that I didn't get originally.
Right. I mean, that's possible. But yeah, it definitely feels like this is kind of out of left field.
All right. But I think this whole thing plays a little clunky. I think a better version of this would have been to have Beth confront him with the flask in their first scene together and have them have that conversation there and not now.
Well, maybe, but from the perspective of this is how they're presenting it to the audience, that scene was all about us learning he's dating Beth.
I gotcha.
So learning he's dating Beth and he's alcoholic in the same scene was probably too much.
Which is why I think we really should have dealt with it sooner than this.
Yeah.
But
it's weird that we're not hearing about this until now. When we learn that the team has known about this, it's been an ongoing thing that they all know about.
All right. So Beth makes reference to she was there for when Sam Sam going missing, what that did to Al. All right, so that really confuses me about what we're saying about Al's history. In the original history, the reason he became an alcoholic, basically a fall-down drunk, was because of what happened with him and Beth.
Right, because he lost Beth.
Right. Sam changed that. So that should have changed that history as well. That part of it, his history, should no longer be the case. Are we suggesting now that after Sam went missing, that Al became an alcoholic drunk? So it happened in reverse this time?
Possibly.
Because that's really quite depressing.
Right. But, alcoholism or any type of addiction.
Yeah.
It's
situation.
What's the word I'm looking for? It's a disability? I don't think that's the right word. It's something you live with, right?
Oh, absolutely.
It's not like, this caused it. It's more like this triggered it.
So you're saying that Al already was an alcoholic in both, no matter what, in his history.
Right. Like, he is already predispositioned to have alcoholic tendencies. So
this just acted like a trigger.
Right. This would have been a trigger to him in this timeline.
All right.
That he maybe had avoided earlier in his life because he didn't have what triggered him in the original timeline.
I did read an article from the writers who were basically saying that was not the case, that they weren't saying that the same thing happened to Al, that this is just a similarity between Al and Magic. Not that Al basically drank himself to death because of Sam's disappearance.
Right, but we do know in the original history, at least,
that he was an
Al
alcoholic.
Struggled with alcohol addiction.
Right.
So either way, that could be something that Beth could feel.
Right.
We don't know exactly how Al's life played out with Beth, but it makes sense that at some point in their lives they dealt with this.
Right. So that was interesting. I was just kind of confused as to what exactly they were saying about Al's history at this point.
Yeah, I think more specifically in this moment, she's just saying how hard it was on him. I know it's hard on you. And when something's that hard and you have this problem, it's going to be even harder.
Right. So Magic reassures her she's not totally convinced. You can kind of tell that in the way she plays these scenes.
Okay, so his line, "It's not mine."
That's
the worst thing. What do you mean it's not yours?
Right.
And then he tells us, I found it in the pantry and I poured it. Why didn't you say that in the first place? Why did you say it's not mine?
I don't know.
It was yours if it was in the pantry.
Actually, based on how this episode ends, I'm pretty convinced that this is a lie.
That he was drinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, possible.
But so anyway.
Actually, no. I'm going to recant that. I disagree with that because he does tell Ben later he's been sober for 353 days.
Okay.
I don't think he's lying.
Okay.
But I do think he was tempted by it.
Sure.
I think perhaps he was considering drinking it and then dumped it.
Possibly.
I don't think it's as innocent as I found it and dumped it and you don't need to worry.
Right.
But I don't think he drank.
Okay. So she says that they'll meet later for dinner. Meanwhile, Ben and Co. watch the news. Magic reappears. He informs Ben that there is no exit strategy that doesn't end in Jin's death. Dwayne tries to get in, and Jin doesn't want him there, and eventually Dwayne ends up giving up. Magic insists he needs to go after him. Alright, so I actually kind of feel like, from a story perspective, that we should have had Dwayne come in at this point. That we should have spent more time with Dwayne, interacting with this family.
Well, we did get a lot of that.
We did, but I think we could have used more.
Well, sending Ben out at this point gave us a chance to see what's going on the streets.
All right.
It gave us a chance to leave this bubble for a minute.
Gotcha.
And get a little more perspective on the situation outside.
All right, so Magic says there's an 84% chance that Jin will be fine for the next couple of hours. Dwayne will be less lucky if he runs into the police. They will mistake him as a protester.
Yeah, and Ben's like, oh, is that what Ziggy says? I should go after him. And Magic's like, I don't need Ziggy to tell me that. Like,
Right.
I know you have to help him.
Sonny and Jin argue some more. It's revealed that Dwayne is Sonny's business partner. And Ben stupidly brings up the money in the box, like basically throwing his brother under the bus for that. Apparently, it was to start their own shoe line. This pisses Jin off, and I don't understand why. Couldn't they just sell the shoe line in the store? Why does this have to be a separate thing?
So, he doesn't want his son to leave. He doesn't want his son to have his own life. He wants him to stay here, be protected by him, and run the store, and he's not ready for any change. We never really found out where the mother is, but I feel like she probably already died. I don't think they mentioned her, other than to say that the two of them built this store together 20 years ago.
This kind of plays similarly in some ways to Family Style, last season's episode. All right, so he ends up trying to guilt his sons, and eventually Sonny sells Ben out too,
Right.
revealing that he's going into the Marines. Sonny and Ben go after Dwayne. Sonny apologizes for throwing him under the bus, and Ben says that his father is afraid. The store is his legacy, and he's on the verge of losing it.
Yeah, he says he's losing both of his sons, and the store. He feels like he's losing everything. He also tells Sonny that you're on the right track, because 10 years from now, sneaker culture is going to be huge. The best thing they could do is take all that inventory in the store and save it.
I gotta tell you that this lady pays $65 for shoes. I get upset when I spend more than 20.
Okay, but listen, those Jordans, that box full of money.
Yeah.
Today, that box could be sold for $200.
Probably.
Empty.
Yeah.
Like, for real.
Ah.
Like, that's how much these things are worth.
Well, you would certainly know that.
Yeah.
Magic appears, having found Dwayne. Dwayne is hiding in the alley, and Magic is reacting badly to watching Dwayne and his fear. Ben calls for Dwayne from behind a dumpster or something, and after the police fail to find him, they reunite. Why are the police so invested in trying to find this one kid? There's rioting going on.
Right.
What are they doing?
So they saw him, and they started chasing after him because they assume he's one of
Up to no good.
looters.
Sonny asks Ben and Dwayne to go back to the store. Sonny is going to go hunt for supplies, and I'm not sure I would let him do this.
Yeah,
honestly.
It is kind of weird. Like, why are we splitting up at this point?
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea for Sonny to just go into a riot situation and try to basically steal supplies for them to last a couple of days. Magic freaks out and says he can't do this anymore and disappears. Magic back at the project doesn't look good. The crew says the last time they saw him like this, he was drinking. Jen goes and talks to him and says, hey, we don't need to talk about what's triggering you, but, we could just sit here in silence if you want. Magic asks if she heard of the Long Hot Summer, 1967. And she actually did hear about this. She learned about this in school that wasn't afraid to teach real history. And unfortunately, you won't find a lot of real history in schools, but that's, neither here nor there. Race riots broke out across the country. Hundreds were killed, thousands were arrested, and many more were injured. And he was one of them. And presumably he wasn't one of the ones killed.
Yeah. Unless we got another Sam Leap that we don't know about that saved him.
We could have. He was on leave in Detroit visiting family. And police randomly arrested 87 people outside a club because they were black. And I guess this is what started sparking what was,
this particular event.
This incident. Magic and his cousin Phil were trying to, do something to help. They were stopped at a red light. They were pulled from the car with their boots, with the police's boots on their neck.
Right, because they presumed that they had stolen this car.
Mm-hmm. And Magic tried to, tell him, hey, I'm on leave, but they were not listening to him. They just assumed that they were part of the problem, when in fact the police were actually the problem, or at least a big part of it. They beat them and then just left them on the street. The fear in Dwayne's face that he saw when he was, observing him as a hologram brought him back to that night and reminded him that it doesn't matter if it's 1967, 1992, or even now. Systematic injustice will always be there to light the fuse, no matter how much progress that we make. It never seems to change. And that goes back to some of the things that I was saying earlier.
Yeah, and another tidbit from the writer's room tweets is Ernie Hudson actually was in Detroit during the long, hot summer of 1967.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Does it mention whether he himself participated?
They didn't mention his
involvement. Okay.
But he was there during this.
Gotcha. Jen offers to help him, basically offers
to step in.
Yeah, to basically get him out of the weep. But Magic says he made a promise to Ben. In the past, Lisa points out that Dwayne is someone's child too. Something that Jen is not thinking about at all. He's thinking about in his, it's funny that we say that we're basically in this little bubble in this episode. Jin is in his own little bubble. He's not really seeing the bigger picture.
Right.
Ben comes back and explains where Sonny is. Jin objects to Dwayne being there, but Ben ends up arguing with Jin in Korean. And the only thing that Jin can say during this argument is, when the heck did you learn Korean?
Yeah, it was... I laughed out loud.
Yeah.
Like, literally. It was a great little moment of comedy sprinkled into this really heavy episode. That Ben, he has an advantage here. He knows Korean because he is Korean.
Right.
And he's like, I know how to talk to him, where he's going to listen to me. Right. This is what's going to get through to him because I'm talking to him in our native language.
Right.
And it turns out his host doesn't know Korean. He's an 18-year-old kid that grew up in LA and they never taught him Korean. And the dad's just like, what? How are you speaking to me in Korean right now? And totally missed anything he was saying to him.
Right.
Because he was just so flabbergasted the fact that his 18-year-old son suddenly knows how to speak Korean.
Right. The rioters start trying to get into the store. Jin wants to use the gun, but Ben basically talks him out of it. And they all end up in the stockroom. And just like that, they all suddenly stop. And Magic says they're gone.
Yeah, they're holding off the stockroom. They're trying to get into the stockroom too, but the group ends up kind of holding the rioters back. I mean, it looks like they took everything. They took what was here to take, and they moved on to the next business.
Right. I'm not sure why they didn't continue to try to get into that stockroom, though. I'm not sure why they just give up.
They had a lot of businesses to ransack.
Oh, well, I guess, so little time, so many businesses to rob and steal and break into. Okay, so Magic says that they're all gone. The store is a wreck, and Ben suggests, hey, it's a good thing that nobody's hurt, and suggests they start cleaning up. Magic apologizes for bailing. Ben says he's just glad that he's there. He feels bad for yelling at Jin, saying that he basically took his own unresolved issues with his mother out on Jin.
With his father, rather.
With his father, okay.
Yeah, because remember, his father kind of left them when he was really young.
Right. And the Addison stuff. And Magic says he's there for him, and Ben says he's the same for him.
Yeah, they're there for each other to talk to anytime they need to talk. In between, life-saving missions.
Right.
And
it's a little easier for Magic to seek out Ben than it is for Ben to seek out Magic. But whatever. Magic reveals that he is an alcoholic. It got bad when he lost Ben. Beth ended up saving him, got him sober, and every single day has been a battle. Ben says Magic didn't lose him. He made a choice, and the consequences of that are his burden, not Magic's. He says also that he's an admiral and a decorated SEAL. If there's a battle to be fought, Ben knows Magic can win it.
Yeah, and this is where we learned that he's been 356 days sober.
Right.
And he is at 1 year with Beth, so they were dating for about 2 weeks, and then he got sober.
Is that the same time frame than Addison and Tom?
She said 8 months, I think.
8 months, so it's been sooner than, or it's been less
longer.
time than Ben, Magic, and
right.
Beth. Okay.
Right. Magic and Beth have been together a little longer than Addison and Tom.
All right.
Although, all we've heard is a year since they declared Ben dead, so this is probably right around that time.
Gotcha. Okay, so Ian... Oh, yeah, okay. Magic says he thought he was the one that was supposed to be helping. And Ben says they are family. And okay, so Ian goes to see Addison. This is a scene that I just would cut entirely. We don't need this in this episode. There's so many other things that we can be making time for.
Yeah, if...
This is Magic's story,
I
not
feel
Ian
like
or
this
Addison's.
episode maybe would have fit in better at the very end, like after we've resolved everything.
Yeah, but this is Magic's story. These two don't need to have this scene. Oh, by the way, the outfit that Ian is wearing, that's quite an outfit. That black, whatever that is. I'm not even sure what that is.
But You're not sure what that is.
But
I did notice that we got a good shot of all of Mason's tattoos on their arms during this.
But yeah, this is Magic Story. We don't need a scene between Ian and Addison talking about this. There's just no reason for this. But Ian says that they are worried about magic. And Ian thinks that it's their fault because of their future self. Okay, but if Ian didn't do this...
Yeah, your future self did this, not you. Although Ian always felt guilty. Right. Remember when they thought that they're the ones who, caused the evil... Not the evil leaper, but caused Martinez to leap and all of that. So Ian has felt guilt ever since finding out that they were the leaper.
If Ian didn't do that, Addison would be dead.
Would be dead, right.
So Ian changed the past
Ian's the hero
for the better
of this timeline.
Right. So what does they have to feel bad about? Exactly.
I don't know, but this is where we found out that instead of helping the team, Addison's just working out in the gym all day.
Yeah. You don't have any other work that you could be doing. Hey, if you have time to lean, you can clean. All right, so that's,
Like, you could have been helping,
anything.
Dig through all these documents.
Right. Yeah, find something to do. Earn your salary. What are you doing
working
here?
out at the gym.
Right.
Maybe this would have been a good scene for them to put Tom in. Maybe she should have been working out with Tom.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
Since we were saying, we should have saw him.
They're both fucking off. Why not? Okay, so Addison says the guilt doesn't help anyone. They should focus on what's next, which is figuring out how to get Ben home.
Right, which is why I feel like maybe this would have fit better at the end after we resolved all this. Because it's kind of like, let's look forward on what are we going to do next.
Right. I just feel like this time should have been used for something else, like either expanding on Magic Story or expanding on the Leap story. But, all right. Jen says Ian needs to get up there because Ziggy is freaking out. Ben says history has changed.
Ziggy says that.
Ziggy says that. Ben does not say that because Ben is not there. Okay.
Ziggy says history's changed and is kind of, there's all the sorts of stuff coming up on the screen. Ziggy's confused. Right. I think is what we're getting out of this.
Okay.
Trying to keep up with how quickly things are changing.
I thought this was going to be related to the chip plot line.
Yeah,
but it has nothing
that
to do
didn't
with
come
it.
up.
And basically Ziggy says that someone else is going to die, but they fail to elaborate to us who that person is going to be.
Right. Ziggy just knew somebody's going to die. And also Ziggy had learned in the original history that the blunt force trauma that killed Jin was from the butt of his own rifle. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't matter anymore because we changed that. That's no longer going to happen. Right. Yeah, it was all just kind of a lot of clunky information. I think that's the point. Ziggy is just kind of spitting random stuff out right now and isn't capable of filtering it properly. Gotcha. Although earlier Ziggy didn't seem to be too involved at all in researching these records.
Mm-hmm. Dwayne tries to comfort Jin, saying, "Hey, this sucks, but you still have your son."
Right. This is just stuff.
Right.
It's okay that you lost some stuff.
But Jin is not moved by this argument. He gets angry and gets more belligerent.
Yeah, and he's like, no, I lost everything. Mm-hmm. This is everything to me, this store.
Dwayne himself now starts to get angry and reveals that every day he has to deal with people like him assuming he's a thief. When in fact, he graduated top 5 in his class, and he's got a whole bunch, or he's going to graduate top 5.
He's 5th in his class, about to graduate, and he has offers from 3 Ivy League schools with scholarships.
But Jin doesn't see that. All he sees is a poor, angry black kid with no prospects or future. Jin ends up grabbing a gun for some reason.
Because, things just got really aggressive. So he gets his gun and kind of, threatens Dwayne, shut up or I'm going to shoot you.
Ben ends up intervening, and Ben says, if you both stop and listen to each other, they'd realize they have more in common than not. And I feel like that's very, very true about all of us in general.
Right.
Especially if you're not rich, then you have more in common with the people around you than you might think. Yeah. Whether it's a matter of a different skin color, different race, so on and so forth. If we banded together, that would scare the heck out of the people that are in power. That's the last thing in the world that they want. They hear someone enter the store. And Jin thinks it's the protesters coming back.
Well, the looters, rather.
Right. We're not worried about peaceful protesters.
Yeah, the peaceful protesters are not the problem.
Right, it's the rioting and looters, specifically. And he quickly overreacts and shoots. And it turns out not to be looters or protesters or anybody that's coming through that door, but his own son, Sonny. He accidentally shot his son.
Yeah,
in the gut.
Jin shouts in regret, "What have I done?"
Okay, so he got him in the gut. Louisa says that she's dealt with gunshot wounds before, but they need to get him to a hospital. And Ben ends up suggesting that they commandeer an ambulance down the street. And I have to wonder, Ben, you better hope that they didn't destroy the ambulance while they were at it.
We saw how roughed up Louisa's car was.
Right.
Ziggy has said that if you don't get him to the hospital in the next hour, he's going to die.
Which, I mean, I don't need Ziggy for that. I'm pretty sure that I would know that fairly well without Ziggy.
Yeah.
That a gunshot to the stomach is not a good thing. It needs to be treated immediately. Though, why don't we get Maggie in here to, duct tape it and put a credit card on it?
Okay. That's a Sullivan's Crossing reference for those who don't know what Dave's talking about.
Which I think maybe one person listening might.
A couple people, I think. Yeah. A couple.
I mean, Ashley Wright, listens to everything. Will probably get the reference because he listened to that podcast, but didn't actually watch the television show.
Yeah.
But, all right, so
they all carry him down the street. All of the whole crew gets together and carries Sonny down the street towards the ambulance that, like you said, Ben had seen earlier. And it is still there. It's in one piece.
Wow, they got lucky there.
Amazingly, it hasn't been ransacked. All the supplies are in it.
Yeah.
The keys are in it.
That's interesting. I'm pretty surprised that nobody went off joy. In fact, where are the ambulance people?
Right, exactly. There's an ambulance just sitting here, and it hasn't been destroyed.
Right.
You'd think that'd be something that would have been attacked in all of this.
So Dwayne ends up offering to drive. He gets in the driver's seat, and the cops end up stopping them.
Yeah, they think he's stealing an ambulance.
Which
I mean,
he is.
Sort of. Yeah, that's what they're doing.
Yeah, they're not wrong about this.
But they threaten to shoot him.
Right. He tries to explain. The cops don't care. They order him to the ground, threatening to shoot him if he doesn't comply. Jin intervenes and says, "Who are you protecting by going after this kid?" And yeah, what are they doing here? There's a whole city rioting, and they're targeting this singular kid. I don't understand. But all right.
But Jin talks him down.
Right. And basically, yeah.
He says, "Go do your job. Let me save my son." How about saying, "Hey, how about you escort us in this ambulance to the hospital?"
That would certainly be nice, but I think that's asking a little too much.
It would have been a much better use of their time.
Right. So they end up going away. They end up getting a call, and they drive in the ambulance.
Dwayne drives the ambulance.
Dwayne, yes.
I think at this point probably wasn't the best choice for who should be driving the ambulance. Considering what just happened. Are they not going to get stopped half a mile down the road because they think he's stealing an ambulance?
Right. Which, again, that's exactly what they're doing.
I think any of the other people would have made a better choice for who's driving.
But I think this is a way of showing that Jin and Dwayne are reconciled.
Sure. Jin stood up for Dwayne, and there's some understanding there that has come from all of this.
Ben cheats and ends up asking Magic if Sonny is going to make it. And Magic says he does. And that Sonny and Dwayne build their own business with Jin being a financer. And after the military, Daniel becomes the company's first CFO. Ben says that they're all going to be okay, and he looks at Magic significantly, and then ends up leaping.
Yep.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where the episode ends.
There were a couple more scenes, actually.
Oh, actually, you're right. I'm sorry. What am I talking about?
That's where the leap ended. We next go back to the project.
He's greeted by the team.
Yeah, Addison, Ian, and Jen are waiting for Magic when he comes out of the imaging chamber. They know he's gone through a lot. Because remember, they're listening to every word of the leap.
Right. There's no privacy setting.
And they're checking on him, and he says he's going to be all right.
And Magic calls Beth after saying goodnight to them, and says instead of going to dinner, he was hoping she would come with him to a meeting. In other words, he's admitting, I am having a tough time, and I could really use your support. And we'll find out next episode that Beth ends up dumping Magic, and that she did not attend this meeting.
I don't think so.
I sure hope. I hope not. I hope we see Beth for the remainder of this season.
Yeah, we love Beth.
Susan Dial. back again for, I think at this point she's tripled her appearances, or actually doubled at least.
Doubled, I would say, yeah. Her appearances in the original series.
Yep. Ben, meanwhile, leaps in to find that it looks like a very 1950-ish Norrish setting.
Yeah, so we learned his name's Henry, and he's confronted by a black man named Lawrence who has been shot and is bleeding out.
Yeah, he's not in good shape. He's talking about some magical formula, something he needs to find.
He says someone followed him because they thought he had the formula, but it's real, and he tells Ben, you have to find it before they do.
And then his friend Lawrence dies while Ben melodramatically cries, Lawrence! For a person that he does not know.
Right.
He's never met this person before in his life.
Yeah, for all you know, that's like Jack the Ripper.
Right. So the next episode that will air, that we're not going to see for a week, is called Secret History.
We're not going to see for 2 weeks.
2 weeks, yes.
Yeah. It airs on November 15th. And we got from the trailer...
Yep.
We're in 1955.
Mm-hmm. The episode's description reads as follows. At Princeton University in 1955, Ben must find a formula hidden by Albert Einstein that holds the key to nuclear energy before the Nazis get it. He's surprised to run into a familiar face. Oh, okay. He's surprised to run into... Oh, actually, no, that's not in reference to Lawrence. That's in reference to Hannah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll finish reading that. He's surprised to run into a familiar face on campus. And yes, that would be Hannah.
That would be Hannah.
Definitely see.
Yeah, which we saw in the trailer. And based on the season 2 trailer that we got before watching any of these episodes, pretty confident that's the episode where he's going to tell her who he really is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when he tells her, I'm a time traveler from the future, and she appears to be cool with it.
Yeah, yeah. So we're going to see the beginning of their little romance.
Yeah, so we've got 1955 Hannah and Nazis trying to steal a formula for what?
Let's see. Nuclear energy before the Nazis get it.
So does this have something to do with, like, the Leap, Die, Repeat storyline?
Maybe.
Was that nuclear?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that was a nuclear power plant.
Oh.
I don't know if it was the same year. I don't remember what the year for that was.
That was later.
Yeah.
I think, but...
Well, that's interesting.
I'm very curious to see how Hannah ends up playing into our overall arcs, right? As a main character who we're finally getting a second meeting with. 1955, so it's been 6 years since we met Hannah.
Yeah.
And we know we've only got 2 more episodes after that one that have been filmed. Which
will likely be the season finale for season 2. Though there is an outside chance because the writers are getting... I mean, not the writers. The actors in the studios have been talking
They've been talking
nonstop.
A lot.
So hopefully they'll just, make it official, start dating, become an official couple, and basically sign an agreement. And then maybe we can have more of season 2 of Quantum Leap. Though... who knows? Who knows how they're going to handle it? Who knows?
We'll find out, I'm sure, as soon as things are resolved. They will make an announcement on what their plans are. But I feel confident that, the show's going to continue.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we're in a spot where we have to worry about cancellation or anything silly like that.
I haven't even been looking at ratings or anything like that.
I haven't heard much about the ratings.
No.
Everything's been focused on the strike, right?
Yeah.
That's where all the media has been focused.
Okay, so there's no new episode next week.
No new episode next week of Quantum Leap.
But it's quite possible that Stacie and I have a huge surprise coming for you guys on this channel. We're not going to say what it is exactly in case it happens to fall through, but there's something we're working on that you guys are going to get a big kick out of, I'm pretty sure, if it happens. And we're pretty confident it will. We got something scheduled, but, things do happen. All right, so Stacie, do you have anything else to say before we conclude?
Let's see. I do have one other note from my list of things that the Quantum Leap Writers Room had given as tidbits. They've been doing a great job tweeting the last couple of weeks, giving all kinds of insider info. It's great to have the writers working.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And being able to do this and promote the show. Of course, the actors can't.
Right.
So the writers have stepped up and are doing all of this live tweeting. And they said that Raymond Lee and C.S. Lee, that's the gentleman who played Jin, are actually really good friends in real life, and they're golfing buddies.
Oh, what do you know?
Yeah.
Well,
So they were saying, if you see some good chemistry between them, that's why. They're actually pretty close.
well, it'd be good to know which one of them is the better golfer and who wins more often than not. But, I guess we have to wait till the actors come back to answer that question.
Right?
Okay, is that it?
Yeah, I'll just say, I did enjoy the episode. I feel like we got some forward momentum going on our overall stories. There was some clunkiness.
Yeah, I mean, without some of that clunkiness, I think this would have been a great episode as opposed to merely good.
Right.
And, good is good.
Like you said, I wish we had kind of hinted at Magic's drinking problem before. And not have that be just such like a, here it is, here's a big thing now, it's part of our story.
Yeah.
One other thing I felt like maybe was a little weird about it was like we have to say, oh, Magic was the hologram in the sleep because it was so fitting for him, right?
Right.
But we found out he was already scheduled to be the hologram for this leap, regardless of where Ben ended up.
Yeah, I was thinking as I was watching this episode, like half hour in, I'm like, we're kind of wasting Magic here.
Yeah.
Like we have Magic in this story about the LA riots, and we're not using him to good effect.
Right.
Then they started doing something.
They did, right. I feel like it would have made a better impact if we found out where Ben was, and then Magic was like, I'm up. This one's for me. Like, I'm the best suited for this leap.
Right.
Instead of Ben or Magic right in the morning being like, okay, it's my turn to go in the imaging chamber.
Right. Yeah,
I feel like it would have been more impactful if it's really like, who is best suited for this situation? Like we did in season 1. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
Where we sent Jen in to do the legal stuff.
Right.
And all of that. So, and that's where I thought we were going when, we saw that he was going to be the observer for this.
I thought there was going to be some connection from Magic to 1992. Like maybe something happened during this time frame that was very personal to Magic, which is
and
why
it was
just mattered to him.
More overall, race riots in general he had a connection with. But I also kind of wish, and I mean, it's not necessary, but I kind of wish we got a mention of the Black on White on Fire. A mention
how
that,
would you have wanted that to
just
play
a mention that Sam was in a situation like this before.
Yeah, just bringing up the lead. Gotcha.
Just mention it. We did mention Sam this episode.
It's funny when Sonny got shot. I'm thinking, oh, okay, so we're doing a direct.
Right. Yeah, I thought he was going to die.
Direct connection
because
to that.
I forget the character's name.
Yeah, I'm afraid I couldn't tell you.
It was the brother's friend in Black on White on Fire died after he was shot.
Yeah, that was
they couldn't save him.
That was an all in all grim episode.
And where we're seeing the same thing where someone's shot but we saved them this time.
Right.
So it was a
happier ending.
It was a happier ending for sure.
Right.
Right. Where in the original series episode, our big thing was we saved the girl.
Right.
But we lost a friend in the process.
Yeah, that was a very dark ending. At least as far as Quantum Leap is concerned. That's as dark as that series ever got, really, when it comes down to it. Where you have, like, Sam cradling his dead brother as he's about to leap. And at the end of the day, he didn't really change anything other than saving this one person's life.
Right.
And
and possibly, opening that family's eyes a little bit to their relationship and all that. I think they said they ended up staying together.
Yes, they ended up staying together, and they ended up staying in Watts.
Yeah, so he had an impact on the community by becoming a doctor in the community. So there was changes there, but yeah, holding his host's brother dying in his arms, and then he leapt into the Great Spontini.
Yes, that was a pretty big tonal shift, that's for sure.
But yeah, I thought that he was in trouble when that happened. And we're, like you said, mirroring that episode. I also thought we were going to use Louisa as a nurse a little more in this episode.
Right.
Also, kind of mirroring Black on White on Fire, where the two lead characters were medical staff, right? And I felt like, oh, we've got a nurse in the room. I thought that was going to be more useful. But all that she did was tell us he has to get to the hospital. We didn't need a nurse for that.
I also kind of wanted Dwayne in the episode more, like and having him go at Jin a little bit more and having some real conversations. I mean, we got a little bit of it. I just wanted it a little bit more.
Yeah.
And there's some scenes that we could either cut completely, like the Ian and Addison scene. They didn't need to be there.
They could have done that at the beginning of the next episode, have them talk about how they were feeling about the situation.
Right.
Like, the magic situation. Sure. There was other ways they could have gotten to us to, think about Ian's guilt and all that stuff that we have.
Yeah, it just didn't belong in this episode. Like, this is a magic story, and it should have been a magic story through and through. And yeah, Ian and Addison could wait. They could take a back seat.
Addison pretty much did.
Yeah, I mean, like, if the last we saw of Addison was, okay, guys, I'm gonna go fuck off since I have nothing to do here, and I don't have any other job or purpose in life, I would have been okay with that.
Yeah,
because like I said, not every character needs to be
featured.
Yeah, every week. Like, we didn't even have Tom in this episode, so
yeah. Where is he?
I don't know.
He's gone an awful lot for someone who's overseeing the project.
Yeah. He's not doing a very good job.
I don't think he's being a really great liaison.
No. Tom is doing a very bad job. All right, so I think that might be it, unless you have anything else.
No, I'm good.
All right, Stacie can be reached
I can be reached on Twitter, X, Instagram, and Threads at TVN Coupon Talk.
If you like this video and want to support the channel, there are a number of ways to do so. You can join my Corn Productions Facebook page. You can follow me on Twitter at Core Productions. You can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as ourselves. You can buy something from the Corn Production store on Zazzle, which right now has a lot of discounts that you guys should look into. If you're interested in Corn Production products, now is the time to buy.
Yeah, they're currently having a 20% off sale site-wide, and some categories up to 50% off.
Pretty sweet. And, of course, you can buy me a coffee, which is a new way to support content creators such as ourselves. And, of course, you can like, share, and comment on this video, as well as subscribing to our channel. This is Dave and Stacie from Corn Productions, signing off.